sisters. Today we are talking about ways and means to have oneness with God. This is the mission for which saints are there in this world. Once my master Sant Kripal Singh said, my mission is of oneness. Then somebody asked that you want to make unity between Hindus and Muslims or in Sikhs and Hindus? And he said, no, I am not concerned with these, but my mission is of oneness of soul to God. And we know this is very important because our soul is part of that Almighty God. And soul is separated from God at the time of creation. And since then, soul has suffered and is suffering every day. And this suffering goes on till we are in the cycle of life and death. We know that birth is very painful and death is still more because we have to separate from everything to which we are attached in our whole life. And all these sufferings are finished when we have oneness with God. But we have to think what are the hindrances that are in between the path. The first hindrance is our thinking. The mind is our enemy. It is thinking and thinking every time. And as you think, so you become. Sometimes we are thinking of one thing, sometimes of other things. And if still we are thinking of one thing in this world, then it is not sufficient because everything is changing in this world. So mind is much hindrance in our union with God. And second hindrance is our karma. Everything in our life is preordained. And this preordination comes through the karmas. So what we have to do in which moment, it is all preordained. And when we are bearing the results of some karma, then we are attaching to further karmas and we are adding more and more. So the problem is that we have to finish the past accumulated karmas and we have to save ourselves of adding new karmas. And these past karmas are so strong that we cannot avoid them by any means. Once I was seeing one film and in that it was shown Peter saying that it was so strong impact on his mind that he disowned his own master. And this strong impact comes from our past karmas. And the third hindrance is our thoughts and emotions. Sometimes we are so emotionally moved that we want to do something which is not possible. Sometimes when we see somebody suffering, then we are so much moved that we want to help him and to take him out of the sufferings. And if we cannot help, then we suffer with that. But we never think that it is his own karma for which he has to suffer, how we can change that. And sometimes we are so much emotionally moved that we start thinking bad about God also, that he's just not good, he's not just, and he's very cruel that he's doing all those things. But we never think that God has not done anything. He just, what we have done, we are suffering for that. Rather, he is merciful and he tries to find out the ways how we can be saved from such circumstances. And the next problem is that we have our attachment and attention to the ever-changing world. Sometimes we attach to children, and if children are gone, then we are nowhere, we are lost. Because everything in the world is always changing, so we cannot have lasting peace and happiness from these changing world things. And the next thing is that we suffer and we are gone away from the path of oneness due to our imperfect knowledge. Our knowledge is not perfect, and due to that we make errors and we are shivering and we are gone away from the right path. And the next reason is our delusions, and this illusion is always misguiding us. We know that our body is short-living and our soul is everlasting. But due to this delusion, we are always thinking of the body and never thinking of the soul. And sometimes even we think that our benefit for the soul is due to the benefit for the body. And they start thinking of fitness of the body will be good for the fitness of the soul. And The next one is that due to these 5 vices that we have lost attachment, anger, greed and ego, with that we are gone away from the path of oneness. When we have our attachment to the worldly things, how we can go inside? And when we have enjoyment in the worldly things, how we will like to sit for meditation and invert our attention. And the next thing, our ego, that we think we are perfect, we can do things better. Why should we depend on somebody else for guidance? That nobody can find God by himself. And still, it is our ego. We think that maybe others could not find, but we try, we can find. And then it is the question how we should proceed to the path of oneness in face of all these difficulties. First, we are discussing about mind. Mind is our strongest enemy. It drives us away in this world. It drives our attention from God. And we may try as much as we like, but we cannot control this mind. No one in the world has ever victory over mind. So we have to find out how we tackle with this mind, that we are not misguided by mind. I tell you, mind makes the man go on the wrong path. I tell you one story. Once in the kingdom of Raja Janak, it was a famine. And somebody advised him that if Rishi Parasar visits his kingdom, then it will rain and the famine will finish. Then he decided to invite Rishi Parasar. But Rishi Parasar was much under control of his father. And they were living in forest, very secluded life. And his father Durvasa was so against his son going in the worldly matters that if somebody would invite, then he will curse him to death. Then the problem with King Janak was how to invite Rishi Parasar without provoking his father. And then he called a meeting, and there were some ladies who gave the suggestion. Then they are ready to invite Rishi Parasar and to bring him here. Raja Janak informed him about the problem, about the difficulty in this matter. But they said, we know that. Then they were going to the place and were hiding themselves in some place. And they were seeing whole day's program of Rishi. In the morning, his father was going away and he was doing his meditation practices. And whenever he was feeling hungry, then he was going to a tree and was touching the stem of the tree by his tongue, and then he was coming back after some time. And in the evening, when his father was returning, then he was cooking something from the forest products, and then they were eating. And next day, when the Rishi was gone, then the ladies were putting some sweet over the part where the man was coming and touching to fulfill his desires. And Parasar, seeing is more tasty, he was tasting it 3-4 times. Not as usually, he was tasting once and going away. And next day the ladies were putting some rasgullas under the tree. He was eating them and saying, these are very tasty fruits. The tree was never bearing all those nice fruits. Then the ladies who were seeing all those things hidden, they saw that he is attached to the worldly pleasures, so they came out. And Rishi Parasar saw those beautiful women and was moved and said, from where you have come? And then he said, no, we have come from Raja Janak and there are many nice things there. And he was so much attracted and attached to it, then he decided to obey his father and next day go to the kingdom and come back in the period his father was out. And whole life practice and obeying he could disobey only by one attachment to the worldly pleasure. So best way is that don't involve your mind in any matter. For every guidance you invert. And when one's guidance is there, then you stick to it and never turn away by the decision of mind. You can avoid involvements of mind. And with that you can overcome this difficulty. Once you accept mind's involvement, you cannot control it. And second thing, you should remember that karma plays a very important part. So for finishing addition of new karma, you don't involve yourself in the matter. You don't involve your karma mind to not to add karma anymore. Have your attention inside and hand to work. This will avoid adding new karma. And for past karmas, you don't think of the results, but you bear them and have your attention with God. And this is very important then, that you don't resist evil, because if somebody has done bad to us, it may be finishing of our karma, and we should not involve and we should not resist that. If we resist evil, we may add some new karma in addition to finishing past karma. Try your best and accept the result as will of God. And don't be misguided by emotions. We are not to have mercy on somebody. We are not to judge anybody. It is God's work and He will do it. So if you want to help somebody, help him selflessly and don't attach yourself to the help. Helping is not bad, but the bad is attachment to the things you are helping. And the next difficulty was of our intelligence. And our intelligence, of which we are so much proud, is so imperfect that we cannot say anything about it. We have no knowledge of the past, we have no knowledge of the future. And space-wise, we don't know anything beyond the walls. And we may not many things which we are seeing because we have not our full attention with them. When we are so imperfect, how we can depend on this intelligence? Law of Lord is perfect. It gives us the right wisdom, and it makes the wise simple. It makes us free of our intelligence and bestows us the divine wisdom. When we are free from our intelligence, then our life becomes simple. Because when we depend on our intelligence, then we feel the results and we suffer or we be happy with that. And when we depend on divine wisdom, then we know it is perfect and we don't suffer for the results. Because there was no other better way than that. So the right way is for every guidance we invert inside. And the next thing is that we are not involving ourselves in the worldly matters. It is said, empty mind is devil's workshop. So when we have no work, then invert inside and stay there. If you don't have any work and still you are thinking to the worldly things, then you will be attached to them. And then it will be difficult to invert inside. And for inverting inside, you should learn to depend on your inner self for your happiness. If we depend for our happiness to the outer things, we will never be happy. So for happiness, you invert and stay there. So always invert when you have no other work in this world, and don't sit idle. So I have given you these 7 steps how you can proceed on the path of oneness. And to put your attention to these 7 paths may be difficult. So, one very simple way for this is, have your attention to the east. East is the place between the 2 eyebrows where you have light. And you will have light and you will have guidance then. And it will guide you through your way whole life. God knows what is good for us. And God reveals Himself the right things which are good for us. And with that we are free from all coverings and attachments. And then we become one with God. As Guru Nanak said, that when you put 1 glass of water in a big lot of water, then they are one and nobody can separate. And so our soul is enlightened and becomes one with enlightened God. It is with God one, but it is not losing its separate identity. And it stays there with God and enjoys and is blissful. So the right way is have your attention to God and do your work. This is the perfect way of perfection. You will all have prasad now.